It wouldn't be simple to just throw away 4 years of marriage, but I couldn't tolerate her cheating, especially after we'd put so much effort into fixing things after the first time. She had promised that it wouldn't happen again. This hurt a lot. Her first affair had disrupted our plans to start a family. We spent months rebuilding trust. Strangely enough, Amy had come to me and confessed about the affair. I had no suspicions and would never have known otherwise. Her confession helped us work through it, even though it was incredibly painful. I remember that moment clearly. We were driving back from her mom's house. Amy had been unusually quiet during dinner, but her mom's chattiness masked any hint that something was wrong. "Do you know that I love you, right?" "Yeah, I do." "Are you feeling insecure?" "No, I have something bad to confess." I could see she was struggling. "I had an affair. It's over now. It didn't last long. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wish I could undo it." My immediate reaction was, who was it with? Why did it happen? Where did it happen? I'm glad I asked, because in that vulnerable moment, she opened up and shared a flood of information. It turned out her friend Jesse's fiancé had been hitting on her. She agreed to meet him for a drink, claiming she wanted evidence to show Jesse, or at least that's what she said and partly believed. She told me she tried to discourage him and convinced him that he should want only Jesse. A couple of weeks later, when I was away on a business trip, she went to a party at Jesse's place, had a bit to drink, and they ended up having a quick sexual encounter in Jesse's bed. She saw him 2 more times, both at their place, before guilt overwhelmed her. She insisted she ended it. 2 months later, we attended their wedding. A month after that, they moved to Chicago. I can understand how it happened. An attractive guy showing interest, a guy you know is attracted to you, your husband busy with work and travel, a bit of alcohol, and things escalate. I struggled with the fact that it happened multiple times. It was even harder to accept that he was Jesse's fiancé. It might be a common occurrence for people to betray their best friends, but to me, that just showed a significant lack of character. How could she stand by as a bridesmaid celebrating her friend's wedding, all while secretly having an affair with the groom? Things went downhill between us in the following days. I didn't want to be at home, and I couldn't even bring myself to touch her. Whenever I tried, thoughts of how we had been intimate while she was involved with her friend's future husband would flood my mind. The fact that she had kept this a secret from me made me feel foolish and gullible. I cringed at the memory of congratulating him at the wedding and giving him advice on marriage, not knowing the truth. After about 2 weeks of hardly speaking, Amy asked if we could attend counseling together. She expressed her fear that I might leave her, that she had messed up irreparably, and that she had hurt me beyond forgiveness. The counseling sessions were tough, but after several months, I managed to distance myself enough from the mess that our relationship began to mend. A lot came to light during those sessions. Amy had been anxious about our marriage because of my frequent travel. I had been too passive in the relationship, avoiding discussions about our issues, and my silence had contributed to her feelings of inadequacy. It's interesting how something another person does can end up feeling like your own fault. I saw the counseling process as a way of distributing blame until it was evenly shared between us. For a while, the balance swung back and forth as we worked through our anger and denial. Eventually, we found a happy middle ground and started becoming happy again. The aspect of therapy that really stuck with me was the commitments we made to honesty, trust, earning trust, fidelity, and communication. I genuinely put in effort. I rearranged my travel plans so we could spend more time together later in the week. We even started working out as a team to make the most of our extra time. When I had long work hours, we'd make sure to have dinner together. But now, all of that was shattered. I stumbled upon her affair completely by accident. It was 3 a.m., and I needed to send a file, but my email wasn't working. Amy was asleep, so I thought of copying the file to her laptop, connecting to her work network, and sending the file through her work email. And that's exactly what I did. I happened to glance at the preview pane of her email while moving the mouse. There it was. "You are so unbelievably sexy." The sender was someone from her workplace, so my initial guess, despite my racing heart, was that it might be harmless flirting or a playful exchange. The rest of the email was brief, but it hinted at a deeper connection. I told myself, all right, let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe it's just friendship, possibly. I looked up the guy's name in her email. Oh no. There were numerous saved emails from him, and she had sent him a bunch too. I randomly chose one from him. Yesterday was the absolute most amazing time of my life. You are a goddess. That was a bad sign. Then I picked another, this time from her. It was about setting up a date and mentioned, Jack will be out of town. I have to be home by 10 for his call. And there was another from him. You are a bad girl, and I love it. This was infuriating. My anger started to boil over. The thought of, I should confront her right now, crossed my mind. I sat at the keyboard, debating whether I should read all the emails. I need some time to figure this out. My initial idea was to forward all his emails to my own account, but that might leave traces. Instead, I painstakingly copied each email onto my USB drive. I attempted to sleep, but the thought of sharing a bed with Amy was unsettling. Trying to rest on the couch felt even worse, as if my own wife, who had been unfaithful, was pushing me out of our own bed. Eventually, I found myself slouched at the kitchen table, skimming through magazines until dawn broke. After that, I jumped into the shower, woke up Amy, and told her I had a problem with a work document that required my immediate attention at the office. Then I left. Sitting at my desk long before anyone else arrived, I printed out all the emails exchanged between my wife and this guy Rob. These messages detailed a physical affair in the form of a lengthy exchange. It was clear that the affair had started 3 months prior, it was still ongoing, and my wife had no intention of ending it. This wasn't some casual fling. They were regularly and consistently involved. The shocking part was that Rob had taken pictures. He sent Amy images of them together, often unflattering ones, including some taken in front of a mirror that showed their faces. I found it difficult to even look at those pictures. They deeply unsettled me and stirred up strong emotions. Another surprising aspect was that Rob and Amy were both attending the same conference the following week, from Monday to Friday, in Phoenix. They talked openly about spending a whole night together. However, they needed to be cautious about the timing because Amy had to make sure she didn't miss her scheduled calls with me. Those calls were part of the promise we made to stay faithful, open, and honest. It seemed that commitment might just be a meaningless formality to some people. I made the choice not to confront Amy right away. I wanted the week while she was away to figure out my own feelings and desires. The last time this happened, even though she had sworn it was the last time, she had blindsided me. I couldn't predict where a confrontation now would lead, but I knew from experience that it would be tough to keep a clear head for a while after. I glanced at my computer calendar. It was Wednesday. All right, I've gone through anger. I've gone through denial. Time to make a decision. What the hell do you want? The answer surged up from the depths of my mind. Revenge. I wanted revenge. She had deceived me. She had promised fidelity and then betrayed me. I had put my trust in her. I had dedicated 2 more years of my life to her solely because I believed the things she had said during our counseling sessions. 2 years I could never recover, considering divorce wouldn't necessarily solve anything. I had this suspicion that she might be sticking around due to guilt or some strange sense of loyalty. Maybe she felt trapped because of some commitment she made to stay with me. If we did get divorced, she'd likely get half of not much. She'd still be a lawyer, still attractive enough to attract another man. What I really wanted was to shatter her, to crush her dreams and aspirations. At one point, I even considered hiring someone to harm her. Violent options crossed my mind, but each led me to realize that I'd become a monster and could end up serving a life sentence in prison. So, I looked for another way. I kept up my act during our nightly check-in calls. I was getting good at pretending to be content. I'll play my part well. I'll set her up and then bring her down. Now, I just had to figure out the right plan. Something truly ingenious. They say the devil is in the details, just like God. So I needed to come up with a plan that wouldn't give me away and that I could execute successfully. I realized I had to work with what I knew. My expertise was in computers. The temptation was to do something completely out of my field to throw suspicion off me. But I decided to stick with what I was skilled in. Using a convoluted and hard-to-trace method, I created an online account that tapped into servers located in another country. I also set up a basic website. It took a couple of weeks to get everything in place. During this time, I practiced acting and honed my skills. I let out a sigh. Hey, while you were away, I had some time to reflect on us. Amy was lying next to me in bed. She murmured, "Hmm? I've been thinking maybe we should think about having a baby." Amy's interest was piqued. "Not right this moment, but maybe we could start trying in a few months." Her hand gently touched my chest. She lifted her head to meet my gaze. "That's a wonderful idea." "I've wanted to bring up the idea of having a baby, but I was concerned that we weren't quite ready." I put on a loving smile. "I'm feeling ready now. You've been everything I could have asked for." My hand moved up and down her arm, holding her elbow. "You've been so open and loving, and I truly believe you're fully committed to us." Amy's head dipped, seemingly embarrassed by the praise. I continued, "I think we should discuss this more, see how it feels, make sure it's the right step. Maybe in a month or two." Amy leaned in and kissed me. As I said, acting can be enjoyable. We talked about having a baby. I wanted her to make an informed choice, which meant understanding how it could affect her career, our relationship, and our ability to take vacations. Update. After finishing my website, I faced a crucial decision: whether to proceed with my plan or not. I opted to check Amy's email again, aiming to find out if she and Rob were still involved or if things had cooled down due to the discussions about having a baby. I waited until Amy was asleep. I woke up her laptop, logged into her work network, and accessed her inbox. There was nothing unusual and no emails from Rob. I ran a search, and there it was, my wife's own words. "Baby, you know I'm probably going to get pregnant soon. Get the baby now? After I go off the pill, we'll have to cool it when I'm ovulating. Don't worry, baby, i.e. be using a basal thermometer to tell me when the little egg drops, so we won't suffer too much." Rob responded, "We can test protection." Operation Revenge was set in motion. Amy and I enjoyed a romantic dinner at her favorite restaurant on a Friday night. While waiting for coffee, I held her hand and said, "I think we should go for it." I gave her a meaningful nod. Amy's face lit up. She took a deep breath and reached for my hand. "I really want a baby. Thank you. I love you." "I love you too, sweetheart." We agreed that she'd stop taking the pill when her next cycle came around. She could become fertile within a month. Little did she know that on Monday morning, she'd encounter some unsavory individuals or hackers trying to appear threatening. My website had a front page featuring Amy, though her face was intentionally blurred. "Real wife having fun, real playing." I tried various typos, and that one felt suitable. It was a headline I could use. "Real wife having a good time with a man who isn't her own husband. Cheating wife must pay." That was my favorite line. It's quite over the top, isn't it? My primary concern was getting the message to Amy. I spoofed an email address from a business contact. To ensure it caught Amy's attention, I used the subject line, "I know about you and Rob." I sent the email through an anonymous server, worried that the FBI might trace it back to me. By Saturday, I was anticipating the weekend's conclusion. I was relieved not to be at home. The waiting time allowed me to prepare for what I hoped would be a convincing act. My plan was that if she reacted with tears, pleading for forgiveness, well, I decided not to consider other possibilities. Her car was in the garage. The lights were on. Let's find out which Amy is here. "Hey, honey," I called out. No response. Amy was in the kitchen with an open bottle of wine next to her. I noticed it was already half empty. Bingo. "Starting early?" I inquired. Amy shook her head. "I had a really rough day." I stepped into the caring partner role, showing understanding for her tough situation. I gave her a gentle hug and suggested a relaxing neck rub to ease her tension. I worked on her tight shoulders, trying to bring comfort during her hard time. Even though she tried to pull away, I was determined to keep her close. I encouraged her to consider the idea, hoping the massage could take her mind off things. The thought of our future together crossed my mind, and she seemed surprised, like she suddenly realized something. It looked like she wasn't fully aware of what was happening. I asked if she was hungry in a casual way. I munched on a cheese sandwich and wondered if my actions were helping. Maybe her tough day at work played a part. To check, I needed to move forward with my plan. I got into bed next to my spouse, who was betraying me, getting ready for what's next. The email I received on Tuesday contained specific instructions, including both my email address and her parents' contact information. I opted not to grow overly confident, allowing Amy to believe she might face only minor repercussions. My intention was to draw out her distress, prolonging her discomfort. This, after all, encapsulates the essence of seeking retribution, maximizing emotional anguish. Her heart raced as she opened the email. Should I tell Jack? Should I pay? Paying might just lead to more demands, but not paying. What should I do? I repeatedly checked the website throughout the day and discovered that at 3:10 in the afternoon, she had paid the $500 to have her photos removed. I imagined she had been wrestling with these thoughts all day, struggling to decide. Unbelievable. Simply unbelievable, I thought. This plan is actually working. One of the most satisfying parts of putting a plan into action is witnessing what you had envisioned becoming a reality. While revenge is the ultimate aim, the process of planning and execution takes on a life of its own. Tuesday night wasn't a repeat of Monday. When Amy returned home, I wanted to gauge her mood. I greeted her at the door and, as a response, received a warm hug and a lingering kiss. Her happiness was evident, though somewhat forced. After all, she had paid the money but didn't know if the outlaws would hold up their end of the deal. Amy is truly an engaging companion. She's smart, we have great conversations, and she holds intriguing viewpoints. We cook dinner together, flirting, sharing food, acting like lovers. She thanked me for lifting her spirits, and it seemed genuine. Ah, this is the life. Later, we lay in bed discussing the possibility of getting pregnant. Her birth control cycle was ending in a few days, which meant waiting 2 to 3 weeks for her fertile window. I can't wait, Amy exclaimed. I love you with all my heart, she told me. Considering Amy's betrayal in the situation, the fact that we'd been through this before and were contemplating having a baby, made me reflect. Did I truly need revenge? This was on my mind during my daily run. Feelings of anger and pain. Should I rise above and forgive after making her experience suffering? Would it be more manly to divorce her and walk away? The answer surprised me as it emerged from the depths of my soul. I wanted to cause her pain. I wanted to shame her. I had no interest in transforming her into a genuinely faithful wife and mother. My desire was to disrupt her life in a way that would haunt her until her final day. And I wanted her to never suspect it was me, so she would always believe that I had been the innocent victim, that she had lost me and the family we had planned. So what am I? I questioned myself. I'm a man. I shook myself vigorously. I'm a man, I repeated out loud. I crave revenge. I want to harm someone. I want to get into a fight and leave someone suffering in agony. I slammed the car door shut and started the engine. Amy was about to face consequences. Wednesday, Thursday, nothing. I arranged it for Friday, a dreadful email. We would have the entire weekend to witness the chaos unfold. $10,000. She could stash away $500, but having to deal with $10,000 all at once was overwhelming. The deadline was set for Monday, noon her time, or else. My intention was to push Amy to confess. I wanted to hear her say, "Oh, Jack, I'm an ungrateful person who doesn't deserve you. I've lied and cheated. I'm worthless." That's the truth, though I wasn't expecting quite that conversation. A brave man faces death once, while a coward experiences fear countless times. At 11 in the morning, Amy's office number appeared on my caller ID. Despite the urge to let it go to voicemail, I answered, "Hey babe, what's going on?" "I need to meet you urgently." Her tone was serious. Instantly concerned, I asked, "Are you all right? Is everything okay?" "Please," she hesitated, and I thought I detected a sob. "Please come home as soon as possible." Instead of rushing back home, I drove around for an extra 10 minutes, blasting loud music. Amy was waiting at the door when I arrived. She looked distressed. Worried, I inquired, "What's the matter?" I tried to put my arms around her, but she held me back. Tears were streaming down her face, and her hands were trembling. I managed to stay composed. My wife, the woman I love, was on the verge of admitting her infidelity, her involvement in taking explicit photos with another man, and the fact that she was facing an extortion situation. Despite my seething anger, I managed to maintain a calm exterior. Although I could picture myself gripping her neck and shouting, "Give me back those 2 years, give me back my life, you cheating witch," I resisted that urge. Instead, I took hold of her trembling hands and offered reassurance, saying, "Whatever it is, you know I love you." My words seemed to catch her off guard. Then she abruptly turned and headed towards the bedroom. I went to the kitchen, refilled a glass of water, and brought it to the bedroom. There. I found Amy, lying face down on the bed, her body shaking with sobs. I sat down beside her, placed my hand gently on her back, and extended the glass of water to her. She declined with a shake of her head. My plan was to remain strong and silent, allowing her to lead the conversation. I raised my hand in a gesture to acknowledge her feelings. "I'm a terrible person," she began, placing her hand on my arm. I continued to maintain my silence, shaking my head to signal that I disagreed with her self-assessment and that she was still a wonderful person in my eyes. It was clear that she needed some guidance in the conversation. "Why do you believe that?" I probed gently. She hesitated before responding. "There are pictures of me, with someone else, not you." "Pictures, you mean?" I prompted further. Amy nodded. "You never mentioned there were pictures." She lowered her head in shame. "Are these recent pictures?" I played my role as a skilled actor, expressing disbelief by shaking my head. "Amy, who was it?" "Who?" I questioned, maintaining my facade. She cried even more intensely. I let go of my facade of concern and observed her without emotion. "You reap what you sow." I left the room. Seated at the kitchen table, I sipped a single malt scotch when Amy entered. She cautiously took a seat across from me. "You'll never forgive me?" she uttered. I scoffed. "After your promises?" "Do you want me to leave?" she inquired. I was on the brink of exploding. "No, I want you to explain to me why. I want to know why you lied to me. I want you to tell me what I did to deserve this. You didn't do anything wrong. I feel so ashamed." She buried her face in her hands and tears flowed again. She only revealed his name when I specifically asked for it. "He's married." In those moments, I gained a clear perspective on Amy, and the realization washed over me that I understood her reasons for the affair, even better than she did. She was an actress, and she had a need to act. Juggling an affair while upholding a seemingly happy marriage was, to her, a tantalizing acting challenge. She was attempting to play dual roles, the devoted wife and the secret lover, the exceptional mistress and the outstanding spouse. In her vision, she would eventually transition to being the perfect mother while maintaining a role on the side. She continued to put on an act, desperately hoping that her performance could win her an Oscar-worthy result and ultimately keep me by her side. Did she never contemplate the potential consequences of her failure? She kept speaking, shifting to praise me and expressing regret for the pain she had caused. I could clearly envision the entire situation. She had genuine feelings for me. Like the tale of Adam and Eve, she had succumbed to a state of wrongdoing. Eve consumed the forbidden fruit, and the knowledge within it consumed Eve. I had no uncertainty that Amy had gradually fallen into the affair, starting from friendship and playful interactions, fueled by his need to escape grief and her unspoken concerns about my commitment to starting a family together. Then progressing to communication, and then further steps, until it led to more. Until Amy found herself portraying a role, playing a part, all the while oblivious to the fact that the role had consumed her. Final update. As I looked at Amy's vulnerability, I felt a deep connection with her. Not as spouses or lovers, but as individuals caught in an unending cycle where we possess knowledge but lack the wisdom to navigate it, where we have desires and the determination to resist, yet lack the strength to triumph. Amy had done her best to cover up the wrongdoing. "Why are you telling me this now?" I inquired. "The pictures, She couldn't continue. I realized she had mentioned the pictures initially, but hadn't elaborated on them. "What exactly are these pictures?" "Pictures of me doing it." I was visibly furious. Images of my partner engaged in that act would enrage any man. "Were you out of your mind?" I snapped. "What on earth were you thinking?" This was the horrifying reality beyond her hopeful facade. She disclosed that it was his suggestion. The pictures excited him. I had already gathered as much from their emails. My focus was elsewhere. "Is he coercing you? Is that what's happening here?" I became indignant. She might be in the wrong, but she was still my wife. "Is he using those pictures to threaten you?" Amy shook her head. She had no choice but to confess. "I'm being extorted." "I got an email. It threatened me. It told me to visit a website. So, I did. It had pictures of me, but my face wasn't clear. They were pictures of me, they demanded payment or else they'd expose me. They claimed to have addresses from my contact list. His face appears in those pictures. His wife will see them, everyone we work with. She gazed at me. He nearly had a heart attack when I confronted him. He kept saying his wife would divorce him, that he'd lose everything. I snorted. Wait, you mean they were digital? I was astounded. Amy nodded in confirmation. You foolish... I trailed off. Don't you realize, obviously you don't realize, I added with emphasis, that digital files can be traced? Your emails are stored on your servers. Skilled hackers who breach your network can search for image files. Silence. I waited, mulling over the issue. If it wasn't your boyfriend, I said the last word with disdain. Anyone might have gotten hold of a password or cracked it. Maybe someone left their laptop unattended, or perhaps someone wrote down the password and lost the note. If it was a hacker, they might have searched for image files and then honed in on your account. They didn't threaten him, right? No. Who knows? He sent the pictures to you, right? So those pictures were also in his emails and they might have breached his account too. What should I do? Amy's question sounded half-assed and half-pleading. You haven't told me the whole story yet. They demanded $500 and said if I paid, they'd remove my pictures from their website. $500? You've got to be kidding me. What's the name of this website? I expressed frustration. Let me take a look. Maybe I can figure out what's going on. She shared the site's name with me. I went to my computer and entered that name. I also searched for it on Google. No results came up. No website with that name exists, I called out to her. Did they provide a URL or a link to click on? I inquired. A link. Probably some made-up name. Can you access the email they sent? Amy retrieved her laptop from her bag, placed it on her desk, and logged into her work email account. Send that email to me. Actually, wait. If I forward it, the link might just turn into text. Let me take a look. I leaned over her desk, opened a new email, addressed it to myself, and then copied the threatening email along with its link into the new email. After sending it, I returned to my desk. The email popped up a minute later. I opened it and clicked the link, with Amy standing behind me. As the words "cheating wives" appeared on the screen, I glanced back at Amy, and she instinctively moved back a bit. I put on a show of reading the text. Who the heck are these jerks? Have you paid them yet? I paid them $500, Amy replied. How? I charged it to my Visa. They had a credit card link. I thoroughly explored the website. I don't see your picture here. They said they'd remove it if I paid. I looked at her, urging her to confess. Come on, tell me why you're revealing this now. Don't make me drag it out of you. Earlier today, Amy turned away. They sent me another threat. If I don't pay them $10,000 by Monday, they'll share the pictures with everyone. Oh my God, is that true? Amy nodded. She suddenly broke down. I've messed up everything. I can't believe this is happening. She slumped onto the floor. This isn't how I wanted my life to turn out. You know what I'm going to do? I spoke in a gentle tone. No. I'm going to divorce you. That's my plan. Amy sobbed. What's your response? You get what you give, honey. Every good thing has its end. Will you pay? I inquired. I'm lost. I've lost you, she said, raising her head. What should I do? They demanded how much? $10,000? They won't stop, I noted. I'm aware, she replied. I wouldn't mind if I hadn't lost you. Friday afternoon faded into evening. I dozed off. When I woke up, Amy was in the den staring at her computer. I can't make the payment, Amy confessed. I just can't. I grunted. I saw that coming. $10,000 is a hefty sum to part with without certainty. Maybe they're bluffing, she mused. If I tell everyone about the pictures, it's almost like they've already been shared. Amy, I can't believe you did this. We were thinking of starting a family. I don't know if I'll ever be able to move past this. On Monday morning, the final step of Operation Revenge was set up. An email containing all the pictures and some of the most explicit conversations. I didn't waste any time. I sent it to everyone on her contact list, including family, friends, and colleagues. I didn't wait until noon either. I gathered my belongings and loaded them into my car. Some might expect me to stick around to relish the aftermath, but witnessing Amy's struggles would only bring me sadness. The facade of the outside world as an illusion could no longer be maintained. It was time for me to leave. Amy's life unraveled. She had to leave her job and suffered professional and social humiliation. People mocked her, some turned their backs, but many were empathetic. Love is intricate. I loved Amy and she loved me, but her lack of self-control made our marriage untenable. Divorce proceedings were underway. I also worried about her attempting to get pregnant to tie me down. The divorce was finalized. Our possessions were easily divided. We sold the condo and split the proceeds. Amy echoed her previous sentiment, having you is all that matters. However, having me was no longer an option. Truthfully, we stayed in touch. Her lover faced even worse consequences. His wife couldn't forgive his public humiliation and took him for all he was worth. I felt no sympathy for him. Amy and I started drifting apart when I met the woman I eventually married. Balancing a relationship with my new partner while still being connected to Amy was challenging. Amy reached out with a note when she remarried. She expressed that she still had feelings for me. It's been years since we spoke, and honestly, I don't really care about her life anymore. Currently, Pilar and I have 2 kids, aged 3 and 5, and we're actively working on adding a third to the family. Pilar is fully aware of my past, including all the details about what transpired with Amy. We've had open discussions about it. Pilar knows I'd react strongly if she were to ever cheat, and similarly, I know she'd react even more intensely if I were to betray her. The point I'm trying to make is that seeking revenge should be kept in perspective. It's essential not to let the desire for revenge consume you entirely. Getting back at Amy actually helped me grow stronger and, I believe, become a better person. I faced the depths of pain and emerged into the light. I've experienced intense anger simmering within me. Now, when I hold my precious daughters, I'm fully aware of the profound and all-encompassing beauty of unconditional love. A few weeks back, I observed someone entering my house through the recently installed doorbell camera, but I couldn't spot them leaving. Interestingly, the next day, the footage had been erased. This made me curious, so I took on the role of a detective and started investigating. My soon-to-be ex-wife knew me well and noticed that I had grown suspicious of her behavior. She believed I had discovered some evidence, likely from the recently installed doorbell camera she had erased. I was in the process of installing in-home cameras and recording devices. However, she eventually confessed and admitted to an ongoing affair that had lasted about a year, almost the entire time I was away helping my elderly parent most of the week. She acknowledged that I deserved better. She mentioned being fair in our divorce, agreeing to sell our house and split the proceeds. There's a possibility she may end up paying me alimony for some time or a lump sum. We'll divide most of the debt, and the house sale is likely to clear that, leaving a little for us to start over. It's really disappointing and feels like such an anticlimax. It's so unfair. I'll admit I let anger build up, and I wanted to get revenge somehow, but there's hardly anyone to expose her to who would even care. On the affair partner's side, there's no one to expose either since he's single, or well, divorced. And he seemed to know more about the state of my marriage than I did. Their relationship wasn't even close, and it's possible this wasn't her first time doing this, but I decided not to dwell on it and avoid seeking more hurt. This situation comes at a tough time for me since I'm dealing with elder care issues and just don't have the energy or desire to fight for anything right now. She offered to try and fix things, but we both know there's too much pain and damage between us, and she's known how broken I still am from being cheated on over 25 years ago, even before we got together. Some wounds never truly heal. I've been questioning whether our whole relationship was just a rebound lately, but I'm someone who's dedicated, and once I commit, I'm all in. Maybe I did that too soon. Now, I don't even believe in people or relationships being worth it. I can't see myself trusting anyone ever again. So here it is. No confrontation, no revenge, no exposing, and no reason left. Just 2 terrible, emotionless lives torn apart. Now, I have to figure out how to rebuild myself without my pride and ego. It's just another failure to add to the long list of them in my life. The life I knew was over, and I'm just going through the motions, handling things on autopilot. I don't even want to go home, but I have to pack and get the house ready to sell. Then I'll need to find an apartment, but I don't even know where I want to live. It's all just so lousy. I wasted more than half my life on someone. The road ahead seems like a void, and the only reason I get out of bed is to take care of my parent. At least not having kids is a blessing, because once the divorce is done, I won't have to be in contact with her, but that will take time. Every time I hear her voice, it just brings back the pain again. My way of hurting myself is by looking back at all our pictures and reminiscing about the otherwise good times we had. I just don't understand why I'm so stuck in the past, mourning something I thought I was ready to leave anyway. I lie awake at night analyzing everything I did wrong and feeling like I was never good enough for anyone. I question why I deserve to be treated poorly and why my life is so crappy. It feels like I'm always on the losing end. Now, I'm old, broken, and feel undeserving of this crappy life. I have no hopes and dreams, just alone in my own thoughts. More thoughts from later last night. She hasn't even reached out to me since I left, even though I told her not to. I meant it, and I guess she knew that. But there hasn't been a single sorry or "are you okay" from her. Is she just sitting at home, acting like it's just a regular Tuesday? Or maybe not. During the Christmas before last, we were discussing how we ended up with a dead bedroom. I mentioned that, about 15 years ago, we went through many premature births from IVF. After that, I was scared of getting too close to her because I was terrified of accidentally getting her pregnant and going through that loss again. It led both of us to need mental health help, and we only got out of our deepest depressions with support and luck. Now I know I made things worse after she confessed to cheating for about a year. I said something really nasty, telling her she deserved to lose all of our kids because of the person she is. I'm considering sending her an apology text for that statement. But do you think that mentioning my fears from back then, over a year ago, made her flash back to that painful time and then led her to cheat on me? I only ever told my therapist about my fears, and we discussed ways to overcome them. We decided it wasn't the right time to bring it up with my wife. Maybe she blames me for our years of intimacy issues. Maybe it's all my fault. Oh God, what have I done? After thinking about it and probably against better judgment, I called her. I knew she probably wouldn't answer, so I left a voicemail apologizing for what I said. I admitted it was hurtful and not true. I'm sorry we ended up here, but I know it's over. Let's handle this like mature adults, not like the 20-somethings we were when we met. I told her I hope she finds what she needs and left it at that. Last night my wife called me. She appreciated my apology and knew I said those things to hurt her. We didn't talk much, just some apologies and blah blah blah. I mentioned I'll be coming home this weekend, but need her not to be there. It was mostly civil, but I made it clear I don't care where she goes. I even suggested she stay with her boyfriend since that's who she wanted anyway. Of course she denied it and kept saying she wants me back and that we can work things out. She pleaded for one chance, saying she's never done anything like this before and will do anything to make it up. I have to admit, all I want is to go back in time to any moment from the past year, or even the worst times in our lives, instead of now. But this time I stood my ground and told her I don't see a way for us to be together now. A whole year has passed, and I can't imagine feeling the same way for her. I only asked one question about it: how many times? She stayed silent for a while, but I didn't say anything. Finally, she asked if I really wanted to know because she didn't want to hurt me even more. I just said I need to know. And that's when she shattered me even more. She said it was only a few times in the beginning, but after about a month, it became almost every day I was away, and even some weekends, for about 6 months. In the last few months, it was about once or twice a week when I was away. I felt sick, so I muted the call to let out some of the pain. She had intimacy with him more times in a year than we've had in the past 15 years, maybe even more than in the beginning of our relationship. It was like hundreds of times. I wanted to ask more questions, like if he was better, bigger, or what they did. I wanted to know what he did that I couldn't, but I couldn't bear it anymore. I just told her to go to him this weekend so I could be alone at home and sort through my important things. I don't even have a permanent place to take my things. I've been awake and got a bottle of good scotch. Now I have to work and take care of my parent while dealing with a hangover. So, as we had agreed, I went back to the house to gather some things. Thankfully, she's nowhere in sight. I'm collecting some documents I forgot last weekend, and then packing clothes and other stuff. It's all going faster than I expected. I've got my AirPods in, playing some good tunes to stay positive. I head to the basement and start packing up a few things from there. It's tough, but I'm determined to keep moving forward before I get too down. As I'm in the basement, I faintly hear the sound of water running in the pipes over the tunes. It goes on for a bit before I notice it. I walk upstairs and hear the shower going. I'm like, what the heck? I decide to make myself a cup of coffee and go out to my car. At first I thought about driving away, but I end up just sitting in the driveway. I feel stunned by everything that's happening. I start writing a long and nasty text, but then I decide not to send it as evidence of anything. So I just sit there and wait, hoping she'll leave again. While I'm outside, my new neighbor walks by and introduces himself, seeing me standing outside having a smoke. I don't tell him anything, but I try to be friendly. Just as we're about to say goodbye, the garage door opens, and she's standing behind her car, asking to speak to me. I have to go through introductions with this new neighbor and my wife. We didn't really talk much, and even the new neighbor could feel the tension and left. Once inside, I was still in shock and just asked her why she was there. She explained that she couldn't check into her new place until later and was at the gym. That darn gym again. She wanted to shower and get some more things. She assumed I wouldn't mind and thought she could come and go without it being a problem. I just stood there, wondering who the heck is this person in front of me. After a brief and awkward apology from her, she suggested we shouldn't be hasty while things are still raw. Maybe we should try more counseling, and she knows we still love each other. Blah blah. I looked her in the eye and simply said, "No, please leave. I have things to do, and you agreed to stay away." I told her that this is what she caused, and then went back to the basement. I'm sitting here now, typing this, and trying to control myself and my blood pressure. Thankfully, I just heard the garage door open and close, so she's gone. But I'm still a bit of a mess. I want to get back to packing, but my bourbon collection is staring me in the face. I'll admit, I already had one good drink earlier. If I have another this early, today will be even more of a bust. Alright, here's what happened. Sunday came after another night of no sleep, just packing and feeling so miserable. It was all so tough, going through memories, pictures, and things we chose together. Our wedding album and other stuff only stirred up more emotions I was trying hard to control. But I pushed through and focused on the things that meant the most to me. Unfortunately, one item hit me the hardest, the sealed urn with our children's ashes. We had planned that when one of us or both passed away, we'd mix our ashes and have a relative scatter them in the ocean by our favorite beach. Well, that plan's obviously off now. But here's the thing. I don't know if it's wrong that I want it with me. I mean, I know I have to talk about this with her eventually, but I have no idea how that'll go. I'm not sure if we can have it opened and split the remains. That just feels wrong, like neither of us would have them. I don't even know if that's possible or a thing. I guess I'll ask my attorney once I hire one. At that point, I didn't mention it to her because my trust in her was below zero. Update. Here's what's really going on now. Sunday evening, I'm almost done packing the stuff I'm taking with me for now. I wanted to have enough so that if I couldn't stand to come back for a few weeks, I'd be prepared. Picked some important keepsakes and documents too. We had agreed she'd return after 9, and honestly, I didn't want to be there when she came. I resisted the urge to mess with electronics or the router just to spite it. I felt like, for once, I was being the bigger person, thanks to some supportive calls from a friend and messages here and there. So it's around 7, and I'm loading the last bits into my car. Guess what? No surprise here, she shows up, looks a bit shaken, but nowhere near as bad as I felt inside. She starts talking about how it seemed like I was ready to leave again, and if I could at least talk to her. I was already annoyed that she was there, and I tried to be strong, but I knew it wasn't easy. I told her I didn't want to be too late, and I needed to get back in time to relieve the weekend help with my parent. I only had a few minutes, but if there's something important, she can tell me, and if necessary, I can call her while driving. She said she understood and really wanted to talk about what happened this weekend without me getting angry. She claimed she spent the weekend alone, but I'm not sure if I believe that. She was thinking about everything that happened and what she did to us. She knew I couldn't forgive her, but she said she still loves me and will always be in love with me. She knows I don't believe her now, but she's angry with herself for hurting me so badly and destroying the man who loved her unconditionally and was always there for her. I was trying my best not to shout, sob, hug her, or anything, and just gave her a stoic look of indifference. I'll admit I failed. My eyes watered up, but I struggled not to let the tears fall. Yeah, I failed at that too. I didn't really say much. I just listened and hoped to leave after she said what she needed to. I listened to her saying many things and justifications, reasons why she thought she did this for so long, why she didn't stop herself, and why she thought I didn't care, or was cheating on her. She thought I must have been cheating for so many years, and that we had become like roommates. Despite everything, she still knew I was the only man she wanted to spend her life with. She wanted to confess to me many times, but she knew I would never be able to accept her back if she told me what she did. She kept insisting that it was all her fault and not mine. She said she'd seek counseling to understand why she did all this for so long. She felt our life together was ruined because she had everything she wanted and believed she could live without intimacy. She seemed to have accepted that. She even told me I could be with other people if I wanted, which sounded like typical cheater talk. But then, she confirmed my suspicions. She brought up our conversation from the Christmas before last, when she got really angry because I was afraid of being close to her, worried about getting her pregnant again. She thought I used IVF as an excuse and believed I never truly wanted her or a family, especially since I didn't want to adopt. She was upset, feeling that closeness and family were missing from our life, and she blamed me for keeping them from her. She was angry because she thought I blamed her for our child losses and lied about it. She felt I was disgusted by her for losing them and couldn't forgive her. However, she claimed she loved me enough for both of us all those years. When my parent got sick and was out of the hospital, she thought I was using it as an excuse to avoid her. All of a sudden, it clicked in her head, and she realized her worst fears were true. She just wanted to feel loved, but she believed I didn't love her and had been lying the whole time. The so-called gym guy was never even on her radar until all these issues arose. She had never even considered being unfaithful. At first, she wasn't even that emotional with him. She did it out of spite. But then she started missing intimacy and told him it was only about that. She had no intention of leaving me. She claimed she never really talked about me to him, but now, I doubt that. Over time, she developed a connection with him and admitted feeling something she hadn't felt in years, though it was nothing compared to what we shared. Eventually, she confessed that it was over with him and hoped I could forgive her and talk to her about finding a way forward. Even if we had to split now, she asked if we could take some time before divorcing. She knows what she did was terrible, but she believes I had been dishonest about this for so many years and should give her the chance she deserved. Honestly, I couldn't hold back anymore and blurted out, "Do you seriously think you deserve a chance after a whole year of cheating?" I had shared my deepest fears in therapy, but I never wanted this kind of situation to happen, so I kept them hidden. I tried so hard in the past few years to connect with her, be romantic and engage, but she hardly acknowledged my efforts. I thought being vulnerable and sharing my deepest secret would bring us closer and show how much I cared. But instead, she used it to cheat and ruin my life. It shattered me, and thoughts of ending everything crossed my mind every day. She admitted she considered it too, but decided against it for my sake. I couldn't hold it in and yelled, "But you could do this to me? For a whole year?" After calming down, I told her I could never be open and vulnerable with her or anyone else again. She took my fears, weaknesses, and honesty and used them against me, and it changed me forever. I feared that this revelation was the reason for everything that happened afterward, considering the timing and all, according to her. But I still wasn't sure if I believed her when she said it was her first time doing something like this. I was already about 45 minutes later than I planned to leave. I knew I had to rush up the highway, but I wasn't in the right state of mind. Anyway, I left, promising to think more about what she said and call her if I had any questions or more to say. But while driving, all I could do was blast some loud music and cry in pain because my thoughts of causing this mess were confirmed. The ride was even more painful than the first one after D-Day. I ended up not calling her again. Now, in the clear light of day, I'm wondering if I caused all of this, and if she could have seen my posts and used them against me. But to be honest, she's not much into social media, and I doubt she even uses Reddit. It was never on her phone, tablet, or in her App Store history. I can't believe I let my guard down with anyone and shared things I shouldn't have. If I had never opened up, maybe I wouldn't be in this mess. It feels like karma, because I was thinking of leaving last fall anyway. Now, I'm just going through the motions, and it proves I should act like the happy guy and never let my guard down again. I feel like I ruined everything I had. I'm still consulting with my attorney and trying to figure out my path, because I don't know how I can come back to her after all of this. The truth is, she just tore my heart open again and destroyed everything I was holding on to keep going. Me. X. I hired a lawyer to handle our legal stuff. Let me know who they should contact. You should get legal advice for what you did. X. Can we talk about this and figure out how to handle it? Please call me back. I'm sorry for how you must feel. I know I don't deserve a chance to talk before you make your decisions. Maybe we need some time for things to calm down. I know you probably think better of me than I deserve. I'd like to discuss counseling, but let's do it away from work emails. Can you text or call me? Me. I'll be busy with work and P's move. Just wanted to let you know. I'll use your personal email from now on. X. Thanks. Think about what I said. I hope you have someone to talk to. I understand you must feel alone. I know you always take care of others more than yourself. How's P doing with the move? Tell them I love them too. I'm really sorry. Call me soon, love. I just realized something. P, my parent, is losing everything they own. Their home of 50 plus years and all the memories as they move to a facility. Can you imagine how a person with dementia feels being moved around like this? How they have to be reminded every day because they forget? Then they have to go through the emotions all over again. I'm trying to handle it gently, but it's tough. We're figuring out what they really want to keep. After thinking about the conversation more, what really stuck with me was how she talked about not sending stuff to work. At first, I understood, keeping personal stuff separate from work email makes sense. But then I realized she must have used her work phone for this. Her personal phone was always pristine, and I even updated it for her when she got a new watch last Christmas. I guess I could still have overlooked something though. Anyway, off we go. Update. It's been around a month since my last post about the mess my life and my wayward wife have become. I'm sharing this update because things have both improved and worsened at the same time. If you're interested in the whole backstory, you can check my post history for all the details. But to keep it short, my wife of 25 plus years cheated on me for about a year while I was away taking care of my elderly parent most of the week. On the bright side, my parent has been in a care facility for a bit over a month now, and they seem to be adjusting pretty well. I visit them often, and they are generally happy to see me and still recognize me most of the time. I've also handled packing and selling all their stuff and hope to close the real estate deal this week. As for me, I found a better place to stay temporarily. I'm crashing at a friend's place who lives close to work. It's working out well for now, and I considered getting an apartment right away. But this arrangement is doing the job for the short term. Now let's talk about the rest of it. I did serve her with divorce papers, but her lawyer responded in a confrontational way. Recently, I had to deal with a maintenance issue at our old home. It wasn't too serious, but it needed quick attention. Luckily, she wasn't there when I arrived to handle it. I met with the contractor, fixed the problem, and hoped to be gone before she returned. It took a few hours, but I managed to move things around and get it done. But of course, my luck couldn't stay that good. Later that day, I got a call from a doctor saying she had been admitted to the hospital. I'm still her emergency contact and husband, so it wasn't a real surprise. Before I arrived, she had called an ambulance, thinking she was having a heart attack, but it turned out to be a panic attack. However, she also mentioned having constant self-harming thoughts, so they admitted her for observation. She's been there ever since, and I had to call her boss to let them know she'd be out for medical reasons for a while. After talking to the doctor, I realized I needed to go and see her. The doctor said I could visit her since she requested it, but I had to be non-confrontational because she was in a delicate state. I was really confused because I didn't want to visit if it was just the usual cheater script BS. But I still care for her and don't want her to harm herself or struggle to take care of herself in the future. She had been in care for mental health in the past, along with another chronic health issue she's had her whole life. During those tough times, I was there for her 100% and did everything to help her get through it. Also, selfishly, I don't want it to affect our ability to handle our business together. I talked to my friend about it, and they said it's up to me whether I want to visit her or not. I also spoke with my attorney after the first couple of visits. They advised me to be cautious, not make any promises, or say anything that could be used against me, etc. I knew before visiting that cheaters often use attempts to end things as a way to manipulate. But considering her history, I'm aware that this could be a genuine and serious situation she's in. I know. I shouldn't let anything related to her actions suck me in. I don't want to slow down my progress in moving on with my life. But there's a part of me that feels the need to be there for her. It's frustrating that I still have these feelings and wish none of this had happened. But it did. I've tried to be firm with her, but seeing her in such a state might cause setbacks. Now, before you jump on my case, I can't just abandon her. It's not in my nature. She really doesn't have anyone else. Her only close friend lives far away and is dealing with her own serious medical condition right now. So I told her doctor I'd visit her in the hospital, and did that the next day. When I got there, she was a mess. I brought some things she might need since it seemed like she'd be there for a few days. When I arrived, she was still sleeping with an IV and monitors, but they didn't seem related to mental health. I thought maybe it was dehydration or something, but seeing her sleep brought back memories of how beautiful and peaceful she looked, like the person I used to want. As I sat there watching her, all the anger and betrayal feelings came rushing back, but I kept it together. Eventually she woke up, and she was surprised to see me. She begged for a hug and forgiveness, but I told her I was there to make sure she was okay, and that I was worried about her. I didn't want to talk about us. We managed to be civil about it all, but there were a lot of tears on her side. We talked for a long time. Then she dropped another bombshell on me, and it felt like my world was crumbling. During her visit to the gynecologist for STD tests and a checkup, they found something that was still being evaluated. I thought, here we go, she's caught an STD, and I'm going to hear about it? But fortunately, it wasn't that. They found fairly aggressive ovarian cancer. Now, I'm no expert, but I know that type of cancer is usually serious. I had to step out of the room for a moment to collect myself. So many emotions were running through me, and I didn't want her to see that. After gathering myself, we talked for a long time. In our conversation, I eventually agreed to help her in any way I can. Part of me wanted to tell her to rely on her BF now, but I made it clear that my decision had nothing to do with us being together. I felt that I would do the same for her if the situation were reversed. But who knows? It turns out her panic attack was triggered by getting this news, and also because I completely ignored her birthday. Plus, she got served with divorce papers in the same week. It's like a perfect storm of crap hit her life. It almost feels like karma. She was feeling overwhelmed and thought ending her life would be easier than facing me and this disease alone. She was losing everything, and now facing the prospect of losing her life on top of it. She didn't want me to suffer from her medical debts either. She thought her life insurance and giving me the house would give me a fresh start. But I managed to convince her that all I want is for her to fight with everything she's got and to be there for her. I told her she is not a reason to end her life. So that's what I've been up to lately. Driving up and down the highways for work, visiting my parent at the hospital, staying with my friend, and now going back to our old home to gather more of her things. They moved her to a regular room since the doctors think she's no longer a danger to herself. She's had more tests, and today we'll find out the exact stage of her cancer. From the initial exams, it's at least stage 2B or worse. If it's not stage 4, we might have a chance to handle it, I guess. But if it's stage 4, it'll be a tough and short road ahead. I'm currently typing this in the hospital cafeteria, waiting for the oncology department to give us more results and details. I'm the kind of person who'd do anything for anyone. Even though her actions drove me away, I'd be a complete mess. Not that I haven't been in private. But once again, I'm trying to be strong for both of us and staying optimistic, which is totally against my pessimistic nature. The biggest thing that might happen, if it's not a lost cause, is that she'll need major emergency surgery and chemo, and she'll require care and assistance during recovery. I agreed to be there for her through the surgery, chemo, and recovery, if that's the best case scenario. I haven't explicitly told her yet that I would move in and stay with her, although it's probably what I'll have to do. But that decision hasn't changed my mind about divorce. I talked to my lawyer about what all this means for our separation, and if we can still be considered separated during this time. They said we can treat this as an in-house separation as long as certain things don't happen, which would be impossible anyway. My other concern is how I can avoid being responsible for part of her medical debt from this situation, as it's likely to delay our divorce proceedings. They told me we can amend our settlement agreement, but she would need to agree that none of this is my liability. So the question is, can I take care of her through this, avoid getting emotionally connected again, and still move on with my life, no matter how this situation comes to an end? Update. For those who are still interested, I finally met with the doctors. It's stage 2B and has spread, but the tumors are still small and haven't reached the bladder or other distant organs like the liver, which is almost impossible to cure. She will undergo serious surgeries and chemo. I had already made up my mind that I would support her in her battle, no matter what she did. I can't just leave her to face this alone without any support. I know some might say it's not my responsibility anymore, but I guess I can't be that cold-hearted person I initially thought I could be, and I don't care what others think. I'm doing this for myself. Despite supporting her through this, I will continue with our separation and divorce. Unfortunately, I'll likely have to move back in temporarily for in-house separation to help her for a while. I've discussed this with my attorney, and they understand my position. They say we can still consider it as separated time, as long as we don't sleep together, which won't be a problem for various reasons. We also need to agree that she won't make the process more difficult, as it seemed to be her original plan. I'll make sure she understands that my support comes with the condition that she doesn't contest or drag out the process. I'll agree to give her time to get better situated. I might feel guilty, like I'm bargaining with her life, but everyone has their limits. She'll undergo surgery in the next few days for additional biopsies and a major operation. The treatment plan is aggressive, but it's better to stop the spread now. I don't need more details than that. As my post title says, her cheating may have saved her life, as she would likely have caught this too late otherwise. So I guess someone in this situation gets a win. I appreciate all the comments and advice. I know they come from a place of support, but ultimately, the choices are mine to make. I just want this part of my life to happen and eventually end. After this, I can't keep feeling obligated to anyone besides my parent. Attachments only seem to bring pain, but I guess, in the end, it's my fault for getting attached in the first place. I'll continue to monitor this account and might make updates, but for now, I guess this is the path I have to walk. I've been at the hospital with WW since yesterday morning and it's been really rough, just like everything else that's been happening. First of all, she's in a bad state. During surgery, she coded, and they had to stop it because her blood pressure was uncontrollable, among other issues. The surgeon did remove a lot of the cancer, but not all of it. She'll need more surgery, but it's too risky right now. Last night, she even had a seizure that caused more damage and bleeding, so they had to take her back into surgery even though it wasn't initially recommended to stop the internal bleeding. She came out of that surgery earlier this morning, but has been in and out of consciousness. The medical team is doing everything they can to prevent a stroke. I'm not sure if she'll make it, and I've been running on no sleep for 2 days, imagining the worst. She's a bit more stable now, but it's still a very delicate situation. Adding to the stress, while waiting for her initial surgery, I used her work phone and saw a message from her affair partner a few weeks ago from an unknown number. I noticed she had blocked his other number, but I kept their conversation as evidence. In the message, he was asking how she was and apologizing for how he treated her the last time they saw each other. There's a whole story there that I don't want to go into, but basically, I tracked down the guy involved, and things got messy and dangerous. He contacted her, and she agreed to meet him to avoid legal trouble, but it happened anyway. That was almost a month ago. I did see her response to him, where she said he was the biggest mistake of her life. She regretted meeting him, and she wanted no further contact. She even asked him not to reach out for everyone's safety. I don't take this as significant since I found it myself, and she didn't admit anything to me, so I guess she still has her secrets. I managed to go through everything, including her work emails and personal accounts. I even looked back far before last year, and I found nothing suspicious before then. But it doesn't change my mind about the divorce or helping her. I'm just ranting because everything is messed up right now. She might live or die without ever knowing that I know this, and the only thing it proves to me is that she's still capable of lying to me. I don't even know if we'll ever get the chance to talk about it. I guess it doesn't really matter at this point anyway. I might be done with my posts now because nothing else really matters if she's not alive or has some brain damage or is in a worse state than expected. I'll still do whatever I can for her and hope for the best. But honestly, I tend to expect the worst. The best thing I can hope for is to get some actual sleep before the end of the week. Update. So here's the latest episode of my crap show today. WW's condition has been up and down, mostly down. They think she had a small stroke, but she's still hanging on and slightly improving over the weekend. While she's not out of the woods yet, doctors are a bit more optimistic. She's been conscious more, but in a lot of pain and on some strong meds. They moved her from intensive care, and she'll probably go into rehab before coming home. On Thursday, WW's best friend M got in touch with me. We hadn't talked since all of this happened. I figured she knew and was just on WW's side no matter what. I left her a voicemail the night after WW's first surgery in case they hadn't talked, letting her know WW might not make it through. I said if she wanted to see her, she should come soon in case the worst happened. Em and I were never super close, but they've been friends since their teens and went to college together. We've spent time together during holidays and a couple of vacations. So, on Thursday, Em called and expressed how sorry she was that we were going through all this and said she'd like to come see WW. She asked if she could stay at the house. I assumed she maybe thought I was still living there. I told her she could stay and use WW's car if needed. I've been at the house part-time, so it's not empty. But not every night, and it still hurts to stay in my own house. I agreed because she's always been a really good person, and I know losing her friend is weighing on her. Thursday evening, I picked her up from the airport, and we went straight to the hospital. On the way, we talked more about WW's condition and what had happened since the surgery. She finally tells me she knows what happened with us, but she says WW only told her everything a few days before she was initially hospitalized when she got the news about the cancer and was served with divorce papers. She told me they hadn't talked much last year, not like before, but she thought it was because WW was struggling with the news about her own medical struggles, and she wasn't good at handling the possibility of losing her best friend. The crazy part was that she had shared her suspicions with WW that her husband was cheating and how they were trying to work through it. She believed it was just an emotional affair and that he had a crush on someone at work but didn't act on it. Eventually, he realized what he was risking and came back to her, according to her. I didn't say much about it, except to advise her to verify everything he was saying. I hadn't seen anything about this in WW's text conversations, but since we're all over 50, we're probably more phone call people than texters, so it kind of makes sense. The absolute irony and slap in the face for both of us was that she was advising WW on how to approach her husband about it and handle their marriage counseling. She was helping her set boundaries and demand the respect she deserved, etc. Em told me how they argued a lot when she confronted WW about everything. She wasn't sure if they could still be friends after discovering how deceitful WW had been to both of us. Em even admitted to cursing her out and saying she deserved whatever consequences she faced in the divorce. It's surprising because Em is not the type to use foul language. She's pretty religious and proper. After the argument, WW tried calling Em a few times, but Em ignored the calls. That's also why she didn't answer my call initially when I reached out to her. She thought I might be trying to involve her more in the situation. However, when Em heard my voicemail, she realized that she couldn't stay away without seeing WW again, just in case the worst happened, and she didn't want their last words to be during a heated argument. So she called me to arrange a visit to the hospital. We spent a lot of time together this weekend, but don't worry, it wasn't in any wrong way. Em shared some more insights with me after her visits with WW. We talked almost every night until very late, and it was kinda nice because she never pressured me to stay together. But I could tell that after each visit, she was becoming more understanding. Last night, Em surprised me by telling me something unexpected. DW had asked her to talk to me about DNR, do not resuscitate, and what to do if her condition worsened. W wasn't sure if things got worse, if I could take her off life support. She also expressed that if her condition deteriorated to a point of unbearable suffering or major disabilities, she wanted to end her life. W asked M to convince me to let her go if the time came, and I reached out about it, or if M couldn't handle the outcome. I'm not even sure what circumstances, other than being brain dead, would be legally allowed for that here. Tonight, I'm going to talk to her about this whole situation, but honestly, I'm not sure what to say. I'm the type of person who believes in not prolonging someone's suffering. and I'd probably make the right decision in the right circumstances. But I can't commit to anything more than that, and I'll never be certain if I'm doing it just to be done with all this pain or not. Even in the right medical scenario, I think I'd carry a ton of guilt about this forever. I'll also discuss this with my therapist, but my appointment isn't until later in the week. Quick update. Before she left, I asked her friend M if she would consider being the medical POA, power of attorney, for my wife, and she's thinking about it. I'll also ask a close relative, even though they live far away, but I can't guarantee they'll do it. I won't make any decisions except legal ones. I briefly spoke with my lawyer, and we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. However, tonight, I'll let her know that I understand what she wants, but I can't agree to it right now.